Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the National Black Child Development Institute's virtual Lunch and Learn session on gaining practical tips and tools for teaching children of all ages at home. Our featured speaker, Mrs. Linda Melton Mann, is the president of BCDI-Mid Hudson and a retired assistant superintendent of schools of the Poughkeepsie City School District in New York State. With over 50 years of experience in the field of education, Mrs. Melton Mann has previously served as a principal and teacher in the Lakeland School District in New York's Westchester County and the Newark Public School System in Newark, New Jersey. Upon her retirement in 2002, she began a 10-year career as a college professor at Mercy College, where she supervised student teaching. Mrs. Melton Mann has a long and successful track record of managing and directing all levels of education, including college, and we are excited to have her today. Please welcome Mrs. Linda Melton Mann.
Good afternoon and welcome. I am delighted to be here with you today so that I can share some tips with you. However, first and foremost, I would like to tell all parents and guardians to remember you were your child's first teacher. And being your child's first teacher, you taught them to brush their teeth, you taught them to potty train, you taught them how to feed themselves. And so I'm telling you, relax, relax. Give yourself a big hug because you deserve it. Since the closing of schools, parents are in different levels of homeschooling. So I will share information suitable for all stages of your current situation. Prior to doing that, I'd like to just tell you about a situation with my affiliate and members of the education ministry at Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. When we heard about the closing, which started on March 13, 2020, we got our ship together. We were calling, we were texting each other to see how we could help our babies. What do we need to do as a community to make sure our young people were educated? We are also concerned about the physical, mental, and social conditions of our students and parents. It was paramount that we address those issues. So let me just have a conversation with you. Let's go to our first slide, please. Second slide. Homeschooling, why are we here? As you are aware, we are in an emergency situation beyond our control. However, regardless of your state and district, education must be given to your child. They must keep them safe from hurt or harm during this pandemic. And that's why schools were closed immediately. They could no longer stay in that environment that might have impacted their health conditions. Education is a requirement for all states. And if a district fails to educate your child, it will have a major financial impact on the district. School district receive taxpayer funds to educate your school while they're in your child while they're in attendance. During this crisis, teachers must maintain their Monday to Friday work schedule. So that means that as parents, you should be able to connect with your child's teacher during that time frame. There must be some form of communication provided by the district to interact with parents. The method of communicating is the responsibility of the school district. If financially possible, your child should have received a Chromebook provided by the district. Now you must understand that in urban and rural districts, they do not have a budget for these items. Second slide, please. A parent approach to schooling, homeschooling. Believe me, attitude is everything, everything. I know homeschooling hit you like a Mack truck coming at you 60 miles per hour. And that's a serious impact. However, try and adjust your attitude so the impact won't kill you. Sure, you may have some concerns and doubts, but you will survive by taking the high road. Because this is about educating your child, your baby, the child that you gave birth to into this world. Please try and stay calm so your child will not feel your anxiety as well. Take a deep breath and say, I got this, I can do this. And as a positive parent who cares about your child, you will have it. Understand that learning is exploring. Don't compare yourself to your child's teacher. You're not a teacher. Enjoy these precious moments with your child. First, accept the change. Get as much information from the school and teacher as possible. And once you receive the information from the district, arrange a family meeting to address the new norm for educating your child at home. Now, some parents already have family meetings in place, and they do that on a regular basis. I know in my household, when my boys were growing up, we had family meetings so we could debrief during the course of the day. How was their school day? How was my work day? It's very important that we connect to our children, especially in this time of technology and social media. We need to do that. This new reality is a learning process for everyone. Remember to include your children. Their voices need to be heard, and that's through pre-K to 12th grade. Listen to the little voices. They have a lot to say. Family meetings should be scheduled daily to assess all aspects of the learning environment. Was the day good? Was the day bad? And most of all, make an honest assessment. Assessment is the key for you judging how you're doing and what you need to do to improve if necessary. Remember, maintain a positive attitude. And if you maintain that positive attitude, I'm willing to tell you that acceptance will follow. You will accept yourself for being your child's teacher during this crisis. Greet each day with patience and compassion. And God knows, I know compassion is needed. I know patience is needed because we all have had a major impact. This situation has touched us all. Third slide, please. Homeschool requirements. Homeschool requirements, the state has laws, and those laws are on your website. So I would ask you to go to the website, because what I'm hearing in the field is that some families are having success with homeschooling. And because of this, they are deciding to continue with homeschooling. Some parents have told me that they feel their children are doing better. Children who were disruptive in class are not disruptive. So we think about, is this the right way to go? If it is the right way for you to go to continue with homeschooling, it is imperative, imperative, that you connect with your state homeschooling laws. Search the website, and there will be a section on the law with questions and answers. I live in New York State, and there are strict guidelines for homeschooling. The questions go on and on, but the parents need to know what their rights are if you decide to homeschool your child. If your state has a homeschool law, your school district must follow the law. If your state should be using your state should be using the law as we speak. At the most difficult times, districts and teachers must have a good home and school relationship. Now, It is my belief, it is paramount at this time for every parent and guardian to establish a positive relationship with the school district and the classroom teacher. As an educator, I will tell you, regardless if we had this crisis or not, you should have had some type of relationship with the school and your teacher. This is what makes school learning successful. How you interact with the school will be a benefit to your child and to you. Failure to do this without having a relationship with your school and your school teacher is a detriment to you and your child. There will be no bond that will connect academically. I'm not saying you have to love on your teachers, you have to do all this stuff. No, that's not the issue. The issue is that there's a mutual respect for the teacher and you to build a united relationship so your child can receive a quality education. Everyone is in some emotional state at this moment. So it's very important for everyone to grow and learn together. Teachers are having problems. Parents are having problems. The people on the state level are having problems. Everyone is in different emotional state that for some reason, we don't know how to get out of this. But meanwhile, our babies are watching us. They're looking at us to make the decisions that will benefit them down the road. So we must stay positive in our working relationship. Next slide, please. Communications. Oh, this is a big one. I'm communicating with you now. I can't see you, but I'm communicating with you. And most people who know me know I like communicating with parents and children so I can get the best out of them. So I would ask this question. Do you know who is the main point of contact for your child in the school? Think about that. Who is the main point of contact in the school? Every parent must connect with a school official during this pandemic. If you don't have a contact, I am telling you now, stop what you're doing and get one. Don't leave the workshop, but you need to stop and get a connection. Who should establish the point of contact? That would be you as the parent. It is up to you to advocate for your child's education. And this should have been established the first time your child entered the educational system. Now, a lot of people say, oh, my kid's in school, my time is up, I don't have to worry about it's the teacher. No, when your child entered school as a pre-K or kindergarten child, you should have made that connection so that you would see growth in your child, academically and emotionally and physically. It is so important that the lines of communication stay open at all times. Many times our children of color lose out because the communication gap is there. So it's important that you get engaged, you stay engaged. We shouldn't have needed this crisis for parents to be engaged with their children academically. As the National Black Child Development Institute slogan states, who, if not us, will save our children? I mean, think about that. Who, if not us, will save our children? It is up to us to take care of our children. It is up to us to save them from a world that doesn't see them as the best people in the world. So we must think about that. It is very important for you to have a working relationship with the school principal. And that's in every school setting, whether it be elementary, middle school, or high school. You need to have a working relationship with the school principal. By having a working relationship with the school, you will be able to receive all the materials necessary to teach your child and receive teaching tips. Those connections will give you cutting edge information to enhance the quality of education for your child. And it's very important that you are in the know. In the know. And being in the know, you have to be there. And I know work schedules can really be tight, and I know they're tight now, especially for essential workers. But if you can't be there, get a neighbor, get a relative to be there for your child. So the channels of communication are open. By having a working relationship with the school, you will be able to understand you don't have to be afraid to seek knowledge. Your child should not be afraid to seek knowledge. Knowledge is powerful. And I repeat that. Knowledge is powerful. Do not be afraid to seek knowledge in order for you and your child to get the best education. The classroom teacher will provide the academic curriculum to be used during this crisis. If this is not provided, your next step is to the building principal. Prior to seeking assistance from the principal, make sure you are prepared and organized to address your concerns. Don't come in there willy-nilly, not knowing what needs to be addressed. You have to be prepared. Study what your concerns are, write them down, make sure you have detailed notes that touch all the points of your concern. On the secondary level, it is so important to connect with your child's guidance counselor, especially during this year, to make sure they have all the coursework and credits in preparation for the road to college and high school graduation. I would also encourage you to take or have a relationship with your local PTA. Now, people back in the day thought the PTA was a clique. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I will tell you, the local PTA will connect you to the national PTA, where all the laws and things are sent to them for their review. So if you're talking about homeschooling your child, those laws can come up at any given time. So I empower you. I encourage you to get involved with the PTA. I know a lot of people don't want to be involved because they think it's just cupcakes and cookies and crackers. No, that's not what it is. It is more than that. So I am asking you, matter of fact, I'm begging you. I am begging you. Please get involved with that organization. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a big one, the home school environment. I would say the space must be age appropriate and suitable for learning to be achieved. Space must be age appropriate and suitable for learning to be achieved. Set up organized learning stations with assistance from your child. Now, a lot of you say, well, my child is 3 years old, my child is 5 years old. What do they know? Your children know what they want. And if you listen, take time to listen to them, they will share their inner thoughts with you. And you will gain a different perspective of what their needs are. If you are homeschooling more than one child in a small space, it can be divided with a partition, such as if you don't go to, you can go to Target, and Target has those cardboard boxes that they are like a trifold that you can put on top of a desk or table, and that will separate one child from the other. However, if you don't have that cardboard box and you don't want to spend the money, because saving money is important to me, get an old big box, cut it up, and make your own partition. Now, if that's not doable, you can, if you have time and you're available to teach all the lessons, I would say stagger your schedule so you can teach the lessons. So you may want to do your pre-K child in the morning, your middle school child in the afternoon, and your high school student can be done in the afternoon as well. But I would stagger the shift if I were you. And by staggering it, it gives you an opportunity to check on the success or the progress of each one of your children. It is very important that you check on that progress, okay? Make sure the area is free of unnecessary distractions that might interfere with learning. I mean, you don't want balloons all over the place and graffiti. You don't want any of that. Just make sure that everything is free. If you know your child distracts easily, remove any items that would cause them to lose focus on the lesson. If there is a familiar item that your child feels that he's calm, it makes him relax, you can use that piece, use that. So it's very important that you design your area of learning to the needs of your child. By having the needs of your child or toy or a little object there with them, it will ease anxiety. And God knows the anxiety level for all of us, including our babies. I mean, sometimes we don't listen to our babies, but our babies are hurting at this time, really hurting. They're not getting opportunity to be with their friends, even though you may be doing Zoom. The touchy-feely part is not there. So it's very important that you do that. All school materials provided by your child's teacher should be readily available, especially if they are providing distance learning. Make sure your child is prepared for the lesson. Make sure your child, I have to repeat this again, make sure your child is prepared for the lesson. Do not have them running around and looking for materials and supplies. And if your teacher is doing a distance learning lesson and your child is not prepared, this is a reflection on you as a parent. Now, I know your day is hectic, you're working, you're trying to fix food and everything, but planning is the key to a child achieving success. It is important for you and the teacher to work together to ensure the lessons being presented are for the appropriate grade level, and it is user friendly. Just because a child is being homeschooled, their assignment should remain at the same academic level unless it was changed prior to this crisis. So as a parent, you should be focused on the academic level. If you feel the paperwork or the materials that you're getting for your child is either below or above their grade level, their academic level, then that's a question for you to ask the teacher. Because sometimes, you know, as teachers, we get confused too. We might have put something together that didn't belong for your child. So it's important that you monitor that. All materials must be easily accessible, so that when you do see the materials and you recognize it's not what your child, not your child's level, then it's important for you to say, okay, this is wrong. Let me go back and call the teacher so you can make an adjustment, okay? The schedule should be created by the parent and child, so all personal needs are met. And that is the physical, the mental, and the social. Remember, your home is not a classroom. There must be breaks for food, healthy food. And I stress healthy food because our children tend to eat junk food, and while they're home, I don't know about them or their parents, I've been really gaining a couple of pounds around here. So I think we need to eat more healthy. You have to schedule in bathroom breaks and water breaks. If you can have the water available for your child while they're doing the learning, the lessons, do it as well. You need to set realistic goals that will check on you dealing with self-care. You must have, as a parent that's dealing with this situation, you need to have checkpoints on yourself. You need to regroup. You need to take time to say, okay, how is this impacting me? What is the cause of my physical and mental condition as I go through this? So do a self-care check also when you're developing your schedule, okay? Monitor television. Monitor the television. The children they're in front of a screen with the Zoom, all these other, the Chrome, they're just in front of a screen all the time, and it's taxing on the child. So monitor TV, monitor the video games. And I would also tell you to turn off the news, turn it off. It is very depressing. You don't need it. Your child doesn't need it. And as far as I am concerned, it is in your best interest to make sure that your child gets the best. And having the news on does not help the situation. When possible, you and your child should maintain a daily log. A daily log. And why do I say a daily log? That daily log should be about the homeschooling experience. You need to reflect on what has happened and what didn't happen. I believe in logs. I believe in journaling. I think it's important for you to go back and see what your history was. Did you take on this assignment as a homeschooling parent in anger, or did you embrace it? See the growth from March 13th, 2020 until now. And if you've seen growth in yourself and growth in your child, applaud yourself. Give yourself a hug. I believe in hugs. I believe in hugs. I think as parents, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. We always look that we're doing the worst job, but at this point in this coronavirus environment that we're living in, I would say take a moment to love yourself. Love on yourself. It is so important, because if you love on yourself, your child will see that and they will be more engaged in their work day to day. So as I said, do reflections and assessments. When necessary, if you have an older child in the household, have them serve as a teacher's helper. You know, older children like to pretend they're bossy. I had older siblings, so I know they used to think they were my boss at times. But if you can give them an assignment to help with your younger child, not for long periods of times, just so that they can ease some of the stress that you are going through, and reward them. It's not a bribe. It's not a bribe. You're rewarding them. You give them all the things anyway, so you might as well reward them for doing a good deed. And I think helping your siblings also builds a bond between each other. So that's very important. If possible, also provide an early learning setting for preschoolers. And what do I mean by early learning? You know, you have the shapes, you have the colors, have that in that little cardboard box that I told you about. So that, and you can have numbers on the cardboard box so the children can readily see that, so that they would know that, okay, this is my area. This is my area. Now with the older children, you'd have to think out of the box, because their likes and dislikes run the gamut. So you should have a setting for them that would be in some part of the house that would be user-friendly for them, with any pictures they would like, music that they like, celebrities that they like, sports figures that they like. So it gives them an environment that says, this is my territory. I can come here, do my work. I can concentrate on the things I need to get done for the day. And if there's any problems with that, I think you can talk to your child if you feel some of the things they have in that area are too much for them to have at that moment. Okay? So as I said, I just want to stress some points. Make sure that that space is conducive for learning, suitable for more than one child, it's friendly, it's comfortable, and you have materials that are easily seen, because when the teacher provides the materials, I know some students got learning packets that the teachers put together. Those learning packets, as a parent, I know they were filled with a lot of information, but if the teachers want that learning packet in front of the child when they're doing distance learning, make sure that material is there, it's in order for every child to see, so that the teacher will know, okay, the parents got the packet, it's tight, okay? And when I talk about the schedule, your schedule, I'm a scheduler, and I believe schedules are the key thing to keeping sanity. You know, I was reading an article, I think it was in the Post, where some parents have just given up on this homeschooling, this distant learning, because they're frustrated. They're absolutely frustrated. And I understand where they're coming from. So if you could put a schedule together that's really tight, that is really for you and your child, things will work out a lot better. So please work on that if you have not done it. And I know this is May, today is the 12th, tomorrow the 13th will be 2 months that schools have been closed, 2 months to the day, okay? So there's a lot of adjustments that have gone on in households, okay? Especially for parents who are working, parents who are the essential workers in the house. and you've had to rely on other people. And I would say do that. I would say rely on other people, because my organization, our affiliate, we relied on the village. We relied on the village. The village was so important for us to get on the phone. Let's work together. How can we work as a united front so that our babies won't miss anything? So we relied on our friends who are educators, friends who are teaching assistants, who were all up in the schoolhouse, so that we could provide the best information. When we first got started with this, Spectrum was offering a free internet service. So when that blast came to us, we sent it out to everybody. Here is what is out there available to you. We also sent out free information for materials for homeschooling. So that village is so important. We must work to make sure that when we schedule, we do homeschooling, that we're on top of the game of saying that it's not them and they, it's us. We are the leaders and the parents who must keep this village strong so that our children can be the best. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is a big one, learning styles. A lot of parents really don't know about learning styles unless you're in the educational field. You may not know about learning styles, but learning styles, you have the visual, where children learn by seeing, then the auditory by listening, kinesthetic by touching, movement, things like that. And I would say, have you ever observed your child while they are doing a task? Think about that for a minute. Just think about it. Just picture your child in your mind reading a book, listening to music, writing a note or writing a letter, viewing a movie, and just working with their hands, like, making mud pies or things like that. Think about it. Have you ever had an opportunity while observing your child, whether it be reading or watching a movie, have you ever asked them questions? What did you learn from that? And if you did do that, did your child play back or record back to you actually what he or she saw or read? And if you have done that, you can tell whether your child is a visual learner, an auditory learner, kinesthetic, or reading. And I think many times we just put things out there and we don't care. But at this time, in this crisis that we're in, we need to know about the learning styles of our children. It's very, very important to do that. While you are working with your child during this crisis, observe your child, not just in the morning, in the afternoon, and at evening time. Now, those of you who are working, that can be very difficult. So I would say when you're getting things ready in the morning before you go off to work, and you give your child instructions to do something, observe if that child follows all the steps that you have given him or her to complete the task that you want them to do. And if you give them a list of things to do, you will also check reading comprehension. And if that list is not complete by the time you come home, then you will see where there is some problems with the learning of your child. And it's very, very important that we look at that. Many of our children learn by doing. Some learn by watching, and some learn by reading. How does your child learn? As a homeschool parent, this is very important. So please observe your child every chance you get. It will ease some of your pain. It truly will. It will ease some of your pain so that you won't feel frustrated as a parent. Next slide, please. Academic levels. As a parent, you should know the level of your child's knowledge. And just be, and how do I want to say this so that I'm not putting the blame on you? As a parent, you need to be observant, especially if you're a new parent. working with an elementary child. Sit down and see if you can look at the report cards, the assessment tools that your teachers have given you, so that you can have a base of knowledge of your child's performance level. You know if your child knows their ABCs. You know if they know how to count from 1 to 100. Those of you who are with older children, you know if your child is reading above or on grade level. You should know this. You shouldn't have to second guess whether or not your child is reading on a certain level. It's important that you do that. I beg of you to do that, okay? If possible, go online to your state education website. Now, why do I push the websites? All your information is there. Your standards are there. The standards that will guide your child going from one grade level to the next is on your state website. Don't be afraid to go on the website. Look at the standards. And if you have questions on whether or not your child is not at the level that he or she should be, I would say you challenge. Accept the challenge. Go and find out why your child is not on the standard that you feel he or she should be. Now, there's a whole list of standards. I don't know, in New York State, our children get standardized tests, and I think most schools do that in different states. But those standards those tests are being derived from the standards that are on the website for your state. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the standards. I would ask this question about, what did you do when you received your child's your first and second quarter report cards? Did you analyze the growth of the first and second marking period? Did you look at it? Or did you just say, oh, okay, he did good, that's fine? Did you look at the comparisons with the first marking period, the second marking period, to see the growth? And I'm going to stress this, and the reason why I have to stress this at this point, because the third marking period got blown up. You know that as well as I do. We had coronavirus, schools were let out. Some of you might have gotten a third quarter report card. Some of you might not have. But I will tell you, if you didn't make an assessment of the first and second marking periods, you're at a loss, some parents, because you don't know the growth. You don't know the growth. So where is your child going to be at the end of this school year? Will they, and I say this to our children, parents of children of color, some of our babies are going to be behind. Will there be summer school? I don't know. It all depends if your school district has the money to provide summer school. So what I'm saying as an educator is you need to investigate. You need to make sure that your child's growth from the third and fourth marking periods, you need to analyze that. You need to pressure the teacher to say, based on the distant learning, the educational packets that you have received, and hopefully, they are marking those papers. So you as a parent will see if your child has made progress. So I would also say, if you saw a change between the first and second marking period, what did you do? If it was a good sign or if it was a bad sign, what did you do? If the change was not good, that the grades were lower, did you meet with your child's teacher? Did you make an appointment to sit down with the teacher and analyze the growth of your child? Because I can't stress this enough. Third, fourth marking periods for some children will be a loss. Now, I told you earlier that some parents have become very frustrated and they are saying, oh, I've given up. So if those young people are not connecting with a book or with an educator, they will be lost. But the sad thing about this, and I'm quite sure this is what's going to happen, your child will be promoted to the next grade level. Now, where does that leave you with homeschooling? Are you going to spend the summer revisiting the work that your child should have had during this third and fourth marking period? Have you challenged the teacher to say, I don't feel assured that my child has learned or is able to go to the next grade level? On the high school level, it's credits that need to be received. In New York State, we have regions, and for this year, all the regions have been canceled. All the standardized tests in New York State have been canceled. I don't know about the other districts, but it has. So I would beg upon you to make sure that you understand that this is your child. You need to give them the best life they have, and that's only going to come through proper education. And don't be afraid to challenge the school system, to say my baby hasn't learned. And I know we have a crisis going on here now. I truly do understand that, but nothing stops us from educating our babies. At this moment, parents are trying to determine what's going to happen next year and where do we go from here. Many of the states and educational leaders are struggling with this as well. However, it is important for you as a parent to make sure your child is reading on, above level in reading with comprehension, passing all their subjects areas in the elementary school. On the secondary level, all students should be passing in preparation for a high school diploma. As homeschooling parents, you must be responsible to ensure lessons prepared by the classroom teachers are presented to your child in a timely way. Grades are being recorded, homework assignments are completed on time, and a final assessment is maintained by the teacher. The final points I'd like to stress with you: don't be afraid to ask questions. Regardless of your background, if you're not a teacher, homeschooling is a challenge. Avoid complaining. We need to think positive. We're positive we're going to get out of this situation so our lives will be better. Be kind to yourself. And most of all, make homeschooling fun. At this time, I'm ready to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Linda. That was very helpful. So participants who would like to share any sort of questions that they may have, please use your Q&A icon, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. So just to let you know, Linda, we have lots of participants who were saying thank you, great insight from Lisa Knight. Also, Jocelyn says, thank you for these fantastic homeschooling tips, such valuable information for parents of children of all ages. The way you have organized it is so helpful. And then also, we are hearing from Bernita Thompson from Washington, D.C., who runs Roots Public Charter School. And she says, so glad to see and hear from you. Great job. So proud of you. Debbie Hillman also writes fantastic session, and Yolanda says thank you. So a few questions I have for you as they start trickling in. I know that you mentioned that both states and districts have a responsibility to the children and families that they serve. So what should families do if their children are not receiving the resources and services that they deserve?
Well, first and foremost, what they need to do, if they're in a public school setting, they need to go directly to the school. I would encourage, if you feel the teacher has not given you the tools you need, speak to the teacher first. If you're not satisfied with what the teacher has provided for you, then your next step is the building principal. So that you, and doing the building principal, he runs the school, he knows all the curriculum that's necessary, and he should be the final person that would stop the buck in that school. So that would be the chain of command. And if you're not satisfied with the principal, then you reach out to the superintendent of schools, because he is there to make sure your child gets educated.
Thank you. And I love what you said. Knowledge is truly power. So, as you know, there are a lot of different resources out there, and it can be sometimes a little overwhelming. Where should parents and caregivers start if they are to, successfully make this transition?
The homeschooling,
Yes.
it's their website. If and I know I'm from New York, as I told you. If you were to go on the New York NYSED.gov in New York State, you will see. Just type in homeschooling. It has all the questions that you need. There's forms that you must fill out. There are guidelines that a parent must use in order to have your child homeschool. And you just can't go to any school. You can't just do it. You have to follow those guidelines. And the steps are very, very tight because you're preparing your child for a high school education and going on to college. So there are guidelines that you must follow. So go to your state website and look up homeschooling. And if you have a question about the homeschooling website and all the recommendations, reach out to educators that you have in your life. They will help you. That's not a problem. Reach out. I think that we run the risk of not asking questions. I used to tell my students, the intelligent child seeks knowledge and they will ask questions. So when a child is asking a question in my classroom, I don't put it down. I want to know what that child wants to learn. So raise your hand, ask a question. That's how you learn.
Great. Thank you so much. And we have quite a few questions coming on. Speaking of questions, so Donna writes, how do you make homeschooling fun for a 16-year-old who misses his friends while having a full-time busy day job working from home?
For a 16-year-old, I would say I don't know what your job is, but if you can take your 16-year-old, sit down and talk with that child and ask him or her what their desires are. And I know working at home is hard. My son is doing the same thing with his two girls. And as a matter of fact, he said to me, he was so frustrated. He said, I wanted to have a snow day. And I'm like, they're in the house. They're not going anywhere. Okay. So I would say sit down with your child and get a plan in place so that it would help him with his anxiety for not having his friends. Can you schedule a time frame so that they can meet 6 feet apart to just sit and talk someplace in a park or in your house? Not in your house, because you can't do it in your house, but in your yard where you can put a lawn chair or something out there, and then cater to the needs of your child. As an adult, I know it's difficult because you're working from home, but if you can just put together some little tidbits of what that child needs, it will help them.
Great, thank you. We have another question from Jennifer who writes, some days it is difficult for us to get our 4-year-old to sit down and work on curriculum sheets from school. We also have 2 older sons, but they are doing very well in their elementary school work. Are there any tips for our 4-year-old?
Well, first of all, I'd like to ask, is the child very active? Do you know what your child's, that 4-year-old really likes? Design his work about what he likes. Now, you may not like what he likes, but if it's something that's going to keep him focused, that's what you should design the lesson around. Design the activity around that child's likes. And 9 times out of 10, it will be better for you to do that. And also, you may throw in some, it's not a bribe, but some little carrots to say, if you finish this, you get that. So it's enticement.
Thank you. Robin writes, are there any ideas on how to help kinesthetic learners with reading? She's specifically referring to a high schooler.
Okay, and they learn by dancing, movement. What are some of the things? Can they give me very specific?
Let's see.
Because my first thought would be, my younger son is in the theater, okay? And his background, he did dance, he did voice. So I catered to reading content area that was in the interest of my child. Now, she may want to, or he may want to do the same thing. Find out what the interest of that child is, and then design books and lessons that devote to that strength of that child.
Great, thank you very much. And Robin writes that they're very hands-on.
Very hands-on. Okay, anything that can help that child read, that will connect to him, building a car or drama. Just get the books, get the tools. You can download information on the website. I think in my resource packet that I gave you, there are many tools in there that speaks to a kinesthetic learner that will help the child read and plus elevate comprehension.
Great, thank you. And participants, in terms of the resources that will be provided for this particular session, we will share those during our daily recap that will be sent out via email. Okay, wonderful. So in terms of another question that we have, someone is asking, how do they get the material? Kalanda writes, how does she get materials for specifically a fourth grader that she has who has special needs, as well as a first grader? She's trying to figure out where does she start in order to support them with learning.
Okay, I need to know if she's in a school system, the school should be providing the IEP that speaks to what that child needs as far as academic growth. So if there's an IEP, the IEP will drive the materials that's needed. So if that child is in school, go to the school, seek the information. I know it's very difficult now because school is closed, but teachers and principals and superintendents are available during the course of the school day from Monday to Friday. So they can seek the knowledge, there. And there's also organizations that speak to special needs online. I don't think I list any of those, but if that person wanted to, you want to give them my information, my email address, I could work with them to help them.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And we will be sure to include that in the chat box. In terms of another question that's coming in, this one comes from Bashan, who asks, how do children benefit from routine when it comes to a learning from home environment? Do I stick to strict bedtimes and wake up times, etc.?
I think I mentioned in one of my slides that the schedule needs to be rigid. Do not deviate, because that's how kids get you, because they know they can weave in and out because you're like, okay, dad's a little easy today. He's not going to follow the regimen. I think the more you follow the schedule, the better it will be for learning, for understanding that parents are in control of the situation with assistance from their child. So I would stress the importance of making sure that the schedule stays tight. If a child, I'm from the old school. And so therefore, if a child did not follow the rules in my household and dinner was set at this time, well, if you're not down here for dinner, then your dinner's going to be cold by the time you get it, but you will eat your dinner. So schedules must be adhered to, because especially if you're a working parent, that is going to be the key to you having a good work day and the child having a good academic day.
Great, thank you so much. So Phyllis asked, what do you recommend for children in special education classes? What are some homeschooling strategies that can be used specifically for children with special needs?
That's a big question, because if you don't have a special needs background, that can be very challenging. So I would tell the parent to seek outside assistance, because you don't want to make a mistake when it comes to special needs. You just don't want to make a mistake. Then you don't have the tools that are necessary to properly teach that child doing homeschooling. I would say seek outside support, because there are schools that will, there are curriculums, school curriculums for special needs children. But as I said, the special needs child has an IEP. And if that child has an IEP, the parent needs to look at the IEP and determine where the child needs assistance.
Thank
especially
you.
if they have been identified as it goes with like being identified. Has the child been identified as a special needs child?
Thank you very much, Linda. And just to let Phyllis know, we're actually having a panel discussion this Thursday, May 14th. At 12 p.m. As part of National Black Child Development Week, entitled Parents as Advocates Supporting Children with Different Abilities. And so we'll have a number of different experts on that panel, like Linda, who can be sure to answer your question as well.
Okay, and
Okay.
I just want to let parents know that the IEP is an individual education plan that is designed just for that child. So when the child's assessment is done through test scores, through the school psychologist, the social worker, so the IEP is designed, is called an individual education plan. Now, as a principal, I believe that every child should have an individual education plan because everybody learns differently. They learn differently. So therefore, if you can design a plan that's going to meet the academic needs of every child, regardless of where they are on the spectrum of learning, that would be the key to me. So as I said to you before, there are tools out there online, and if you reach out, you will get a lot of results.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. So we have another question from Jocelyn, and she writes, if you have not already addressed it, do you have any suggestions for preparing for the possibility that schools will not reopen or will have to close again in the fall?
You know, I've been thinking about that because my heart goes out to my heart goes out to all children, but children of color, if they don't have this under control, we will not be in school in the fall. We will not be in school in the fall. And I say that begrudgingly, but parents need to come to the realization that school might be closed. So how is the village going to help our babies who are going to be behind? Not saying all of our children are going to be behind, but we need to have, and some of my members of my affiliate, Ms. Odoms, she said, when we get back and when we're able to sit down at our church, and churches, we need you. We need the churches. We need to sit down and develop a plan to protect our children in case school is closed come September. What are we going to do? How will we get all of our people, our friends and neighbors who are educators, who are willing to come into in the churches to put together a school, if you call it, okay? We used to have after school learning in our church. So children after school would come to our church, and we did homework with them. We prepared them for the SATs. We prepared them for the Regents exam. We need to do that. The village has got to come back together because a time such as this, this is what we must do. We must do this for our babies.
Thank you very much. And Jennifer asked, will the packet be sent by email to all who are registered for the webinar? Jennifer, just to let you know, yes. And also, if you would like to receive any of the links, videos, resources that have been shared throughout the week, you're more than welcome to, if you already have not done so, to sign up for our electronic mailing list by visiting our website at NBCDI.org. That's NBCDI.org. And in the upper right hand corner of the screen, you will find a sign up for our mailing list link, which you can click on, and we'll be sure to provide you with not just our resources for the week, but also upcoming programs, events, and policy initiatives. And so I know we are wrapping up about now with only 1 minute to go, but Karan asked, is it a good strategy for siblings to teach each other? And what strategies are there out there to support that practice?
I don't know if we're talking about to teach them, but to be an assistant to them. You know, you have children who are very gifted that can take a child and work with math, can explain science projects. So I think it depends on the child and the academic skills of the child. And if you as a parent believe your child can do that, and also you can ask your older child's teachers if that student is capable of doing this. Before we go, I like to also tell parents, you have more power than you realize. You have a lot of power. When you're in that school system, you have the school board that you elect, superintendent that you hire, principal that you hire, and teachers that you hire. If you're not satisfied and you believe you deserve more, go through the chain of command and get the things that you need to educate your child. You have a lot of power. You don't, and the communication is the key. Get out there, get your vote out there, and do the census. These are things that are crucial. Census to get the money into your community so that you can have the things that are going to educate your child properly. I'm sorry to be preaching, but that's the way I feel.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Melton Mann. You did a wonderful job. And thank you again to our participants for joining the National Black Child Development Institute's virtual Lunch and Learn session on gaining practical tips and tools for teaching children of all ages at home. Our next session is at 4 today, and that is our Homeschooling Happy Half Hour with Mr. Jonathan Hines, the Georgia Pre-K Teacher of the Year. Until then, take care and stay well.